Midnight Marauders, that's my favorite Tribe album, period. When that came out, I felt like they finally were really in their bag,
Right.
completely. I listened to that album to death, just
Right.
to death. Award Tour was the first single, like you mentioned. Rest in peace, Trugoy. Huge loss that just
Right.
happened.
Definitely.
From De La Soul. He does the hook on that song.
Right.
The album goes platinum again.
Mm-hmm.
And you're on The Chase Part 2. Where exactly are you on that song?
Well, I'm on the B-side of the Award Tour single.
Okay, got it.
Which is probably the only time I made a placement mistake in my career. Because I could have been on the album version, but I thought it would be a better idea for me as an individual, because the award tour was coming out first, to be heard on the B-side, which I don't, which it's not really a placement mistake. I just, in terms of publishing, it was. But in terms of, and I'm going on to become a songwriter and live, and that be a very lucrative part of my revenues. So, but from a creative and an aesthetic and just a starting point, I do love that the fact that it was like, oh, who's this guy on the B-side of their first single? And the record went on to be played on the radio. I think at the time it was 98.7 Kiss, and so that was the baby steps, or the initial stages of me coming into the fold of Tribe as an MC.
Okay, so you show up on the B-side. It doesn't show up on the album, like you said, but you have a song with Tribe Called Quest.
Right.
So after Midnight Marauders gets completed, things start to kind of move around in Tribe. So Phife Dawg ends up moving to Atlanta.
Before you do that, we can't overlook the fact that Jerobi left the group.
Okay.
Right? So the difference between between Peoples and Low End is it goes from 4 to 3. Right? So we go from 4 to 3. And then when I come around, it goes to 4. So that's a story within itself. So before Phife moves to Georgia, we can't skip over the fact that Jerobi left the group, because Jerobi and Phife are best friends.
Okay.
Right? So now we're starting to see we're starting to see what success is bringing about from a character standpoint. And it's not easy, especially, like I said, at that time. If we go back we got to understand that you're saying at that particular moment, coming with this starting in the inception of the inception of a tribe is in the midst of the crack epidemic, right? The 1989, at the same time, the Central Park Five were picked up. This is a completely different time period. So four young men to be, and now obviously, like I said, those 4 are a tribe. You have to, they have a collective going on also when they creatively vibe with Jungle Brothers and they creatively vibe with De La Soul. And basically revolutionized the way that street kids approached the music business because of success, right? And even to this day, the ramifications of those sacrifices we're seeing on Front Street. We saw De La Soul literally have to campaign and turn and make every political statement to retrieve what was taken from them. And so there are numerous situations that are occurring all at once. So it's, for me, I can't just fly over. We go from, we go from people's low end to midnight to me, and there's no without detail. So
right.
So like I said, even Fife moving to Georgia is a reactionary scenario to the success and the adversity that comes with their position. These are first of their kind. Prior to that, we can name almost everyone who crossed over, right? We can name Run DMC. We can say Houdini had hits. We could say L was the first solo. We could say the Beastie Boys were the first white to hit it. We could say we know, if you're at a certain age group, we know who the pioneers of certain things were, and the Native Tongues were pioneers in the aspect of taking non-traditional, because when I say non-traditional, I would say because the customary rap hero at that time was, say, Rakim or Slick Rick or Kane, right? These guys didn't have gold. These guys they were like descendants of Planet Rock, so to speak. Like, if you look at early Tribe, Q-Tip is dressed like African Bambaataa at shows. More so than even De La. De La had, De La sold more dressed like kind of what was going on in like Red Parrot. And if you go to certain clubs in New York, you go to certain areas where they were, like back then it was like dressed like Gap shirt, rayon, you know what I'm saying? The slacks, and maybe might hit it with some Clarks, you know what I mean? But have an African medallion. That was, and a high low was what, like they went to New Tribe and got a cut. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, well, in the Jungle Brothers, they dressed how they dressed. And I think Tribe, especially in particular Q-Tip, he was more tapped into what the Zulu Nation was aesthetically, and brought that to the table. And then there's a shift. And if you notice also, that's really not Fife thing, and so Fife moving to Georgia is, that's a consequence of the fame.